Hi, my name is Carlos Rousselin, and I live in Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm a pharmaceutical scientist. My background as an immigrant, my parents moved here when I was 2 years old, invited by the Baptist community that we were a part of as missionaries, technically. And so growing up mostly in El Paso, Texas, in a mostly Hispanic community where there's a language barrier, there's a culture barrier, and trying to assimilate into a country who has different opinions, based on what you grew up thinking. That kind of informs the things that I'm wanting in my representatives. People who are sensitive of other cultures, who realize that we all have different backgrounds, who realize that just because they grew up a certain way doesn't mean that the people that they represent do. Politics was nothing that I ever, imagined that I would be doing. It was more of a, as you go through life and get older and realize, the people in charge are not doing a great job, or you feel like their heart isn't in it, like they have ulterior motives and there are more things that are important to them. And then you start to question, okay, well, why not me then? I guess I didn't realize that till I started doing Good Party Academy, where you kind of grow up thinking, well, I have to choose the lesser of two evils. So I'm just gonna put this letter next to my name and kind of fly that flag. And that's just the best I can do for now. And then realizing through Good Party Academy that there is a movement towards independence and there is a movement towards getting away from the two-party system was something I was very excited about. It was actually an Instagram post. It was a question, I think, have you ever considered running for office? And it was simple as that, like Inception, somebody planted the idea in my brain, and then all of a sudden I started to question whether or not that was something I could do, and got more and more excited about the possibility of it. So it was interesting to see some of the case studies that we went through in the program about how some politicians approached their candidacy and how some politicians messed up their candidacy based on different responses or actions that they did. And so I think just at some point, you start to question whether or not you could go through that, whether or not you could try and be in that position. So I think just, Good Party gave you a good mental run through of scenarios where you could put yourself in those shoes. Honestly, the same reservations my family and friends had, that anytime there's pushback to the status quo, that there would be strong opposition, that there are some mentally unwell people out there who, if you start to speak out against certain things, can be threatening, particularly in this state. So yeah, there were some concerns about what it would look like to be a candidate in this culture. Everyone wants to know what the catch is. So there are people who are wanting to support you. Okay, well, what do you give back? What do you like? When are they going to start taking your money? And that was my first question too. Like, how much is this going to cost me? Like, if you guys are able to support my candidacy, like, how much do I have to give, et cetera? So going from that to realizing that, it's just some people who honestly care about changing things in our country, was kind of the mental switch that occurred. That there are more like-minded people than I thought there were. That there is a group of people that care about this enough to start organizing, which is exciting. Yeah, it was great. And in our, I think I was in the first cohort, and we were varied as this city is, and more representative of what the city actually looks like through cultural backgrounds. And I think that just, seeing different ethnicities being interested in politics where that may not be representative of what our politicians actually look like here in this state was great. And not only seeing people who were like-minded, but honestly, there were a few who were not like-minded, who may have grown up on the other side of the spectrum, but they were just as committed to being impartial to the people that they wanted to serve. I think here in the South, it's very common for you to be in a room with somebody with different political views. And honestly, growing up in the church, just there is a certain party that's kind of aligned to that thinking, or claims to be, and there are ways to go through life and be with people who believe something different than you, and still love each other, still do life together, still respect each other. And that's kind of what I think politics should be like as well. I think it was a couple things in particular that happened in the city of Nashville that kind of opened my eyes to, you know what, this isn't something that I want to wait 4 years necessarily to even try, and wanting to throw my hat in the ring immediately. The first was the shooting at Covenant School, which is actually just a couple miles down from my church, and my church is actually the reunification site for all the parents and their children, and the political response to that was disgusting, in my estimation, where the first thing politicians wanted to do was start to defend their right to own a certain thing, instead of showing compassion, instead of saying, you know what, let's come down to the table, let's think how we can stop this from happening to our children. And then the other was the ejection of state representatives for no reason than doing what it is that they're supposed to be doing, which is speaking for the people. And so you start to think these are not people that represent us. Not to mention that we have gerrymandered the city of Nashville to the point where Nashville residents are no longer representative by anyone that actually lives in Nashville. Yeah, all those things kind of culminated around the fact that why not now? I think part of it is being more defined in my thinking about, okay, it's time to start acting like an independent and not necessarily bowing to the status quo. Part of it is getting more involved in my community. Actually, since then, I've applied to some of the subcommittees in town to try and get a little bit more involved in politics and get my feet wet. Transportation or the arts, or whatever they'll let me do, really, in local government. I'd like to see people with more humility in politics. I'd like to see people who it is not their dream to be a politician or president of the United States or senator or whatever, but their dream is just to serve their fellow man. And I think that people who are more caring, more compassionate, would serve this country well. I would say dive into that nervousness, use it to feed the possibility that you can make a difference. I guess the question you have to ask yourself on whether or not you want to get involved in politics is, do I have the personality traits to do this? Do I have the skills to do this? And my career is in pharmaceutical development. I'm a scientist. So just having a bit of an analytical mind and trying to find solutions to problems that may not be super evident to everyone is kind of what I do. And then the ability to lead. I'm super involved in my community. I'm a deacon at my church and have leadership skills that were kind of already ingrained in me and God-given. So being able to put all those things together and think about running was kind of the thought process there. My name is Carlos Rousselin. I live in Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm a pharmaceutical scientist, and I am a Good Party Academy graduate.